welcome back, channel. Welcome back to Pokemon Thursday, where there's always been one Pokemon question to outweigh all Pokemon to stand the test of time. I'm fuck is this intro? Trying to make it this is bot rate. There's been hello dog. There's been a lingering Pokemon question that us fans have debated and spoke about and talked about for a long old while, and that is, who is the first Pokemon? The dog's joined us as well for this tale of time itself. This tale that goes back through the history of time. Shut the fuck up, Dan. I wanted to bring this question up to you visuals because we've never actually spoke about it, and I've never actually got your opinions in the comments about like who is the first Pokemon. And there's a million different ways you can look at this question of who is the first Pokemon. You can break each one down, which I don't think you don't need to go into massive detail, but there are some variables. Depends how you want to look at the question, I guess. And if you're already saying depends how you want to look at a question, that means the answer's going to change. So the answer will never be the same thing. But there's four main contenders anyway. I just want to take a second, or take a video just to ask this question: who is the first Pokemon? Now let's take a look at the four main contenders of who it may be. As well, quickly, sorry before we get. I guess this, like I've just said at the start, is a question that doesn't have a right answer. It's just what your answer is. I guess so. Please get in the comments below. I want to know what you guys think because I have my answer, but I want to know yours. So anyway, let's go off with our first Pokemon, and that being Bulbasaur. Now, Bulbasaur is in the conversation for, is he the first Pokemon? Because his Pokedex number is, well, it's 1, but it's 001 to be exact, I think. But yes, Bulbasaur is quite literally the first Pokemon in the Pokedex. So from all the way from Bulbasaur to, who the fuck would it be now? Off the top of my head, I can't remember now. Which one of you Scarlet and Violet motherfuckers is right at the end? To whoever the fuck it is, the Pokedex and the list of Pokemon and all this shit start with Bulbasaur. Which is crazy as well because we all started off in Kanto, Generation 1, so that's why Bulbasaur's number 1. But if we started off with Hoenn, I guess technically our first starter might have been Trico, because, I don't know, there's a debate and an argument there, but because of us as fans, as people that look at it from the outside, who all started off with Generation 1, no matter what, we can only look as Bulbasaur as our number 1 because it says number 1 in the Pokedex. So because it's number 1 in the Pokedex is the reason why Bulbasaur is in the equation. We get a bit more lifey, a bit more human-y, I should say, because we actually start talking about Pokemon as a company, as a franchise, and what it is. Rhydon is in the conversation because Rhydon was the first Pokemon ever drawn up, created, done. So when Pokemon was the early days, this would be like Pocket Monsters and stuff, wouldn't it? But the early days of when Pokemon was finding its feet and becoming the, what it is, and the pieces were coming together, Rhydon was the first thing created. Are you all right there, pal? Proper scratching at your foot. Was the first thing created and the first thing made to then go on to become Pokemon. So in terms of creation, before there was even a conversation of who was the first Pokemon, before there was a Pokedex, before there was a gym leader or a battle or a special attack or an ability or an HM move, before anything of Pokemon that was Pokemon, we had Rhydon. So does that make him the first Pokemon? Now we get in lore. We'll do Mew next because the Arceus one confuses me. Well, this one confuses me a little bit. Right, Mew's said to be potentially the first Pokemon because every Pokemon in existence has the DNA or trace of DNA of Mew. So from every Pokemon started with Mew. It was Mew and then every Pokemon. It somehow branched off, evolved, DNA, all the shenanigans. Mew created, not created physically, but, put everything into the Pokemon that we know. So Pokemon can trace back to Mew as its ancestor. But this one confuses me because I get that but we know that Arceus would have come first, who is going to be our next mon. And that only works, surely, because this is in-law Pokemon shit we're talking now. Surely that only works if Arceus isn't classed as a Pokemon. If Arceus, Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina aren't classed as Pokemon, that only works. But if they are classed as Pokemon, and they are in the Pokedex, and they have a Pokedex number and shit, then they would automatically beat Mew because these first 4 Pokemon come, well, Arceus, then these 3, and then Mew, and then Life. It wasn't like, but if you're not saying, if you're just saying these are gods, and they're not actually real Pokemon, they're just these divine god entities that aren't really Pokemon, then I can see that argument. So we already have to specify if we are fully 110% classing Arceus and as Pokemon, which I do because they have types, they have weaknesses, they have moves, they have abilities, they be able to get caught a Pokeball or a Master Ball or whichever. They, to a degree, have to abide by the laws of Pokemon and shit. So to me, this automatically rules Mew out because I class Arceus and all that come before Mew as a Pokemon. So then Mew would be the 5th Pokemon. We've just spoken about him, but yes, Arceus. Like I said, it depends whether or not you want to class Arceus. Like if, I guess classing Arceus as a Pokemon would be like us classing God, if there was a God, as a human. I guess that same argument's valid, is it? I don't know. I'm not fucking big on being smart and argumenty and debating and shit. You might have to correct me in the comments below. But yeah, I class Arceus as a Pokemon. And even though he is God of the world, I still class him as a Pokemon because, like I said, he falls under a lot of the laws of what a Pokemon is and stuff like that. Yes, he can change it a little bit because he can change his typing depending on plates and all that kind of stuff. But because he is classed as a Pokemon, I see him overstepping Mew. And if we're talking lore, then yes, he would come first. Because in Pokemon lore, you would have Arceus, creates everything, creates Dialga, creates Mew. Mew then goes on to create Pokemon. In the world of Pokemon, Rhydon wasn't created by some outsider drawing it up and doing this stuff and adding it to the world. Rhydon was just part of the evolution line in the lore of Pokemon. And then Bulbasaur would only be one because it's the way that Professor Oak's registered the decks. For all we know, Professor Oak might have one day in an alternative universe started the decks with Gengar at number 1, Ghastly at number 1, or Dratini at number 1, or Magikarp, or Paris, or some shit like that. It's just by chance that Bulbasaur was put in that way. But if you step out and take a look at building the lore, like you step away from Arceus and in-game lore, this is very ranty. I'm sorry if this is a boring video. Just to me, this is very fascinating and a fun debate. Step away from like I said, in-law shit and Arceus and gods and all this stuff of just this thing being created. It has to be Rhydon because if I'm creating, I don't know, say I'm creating say I created Spider-Man or say I created Marvel Comics and the first, I was like, okay, I want a superhero that wears a red and blue suit and shoots webs, boom. I've created this world. That was my first hero created, therefore he's the first hero in Marvel. So if I was to do the same logic and apply it to Pokemon, I'm creating Pokemon, I'm creating these monsters. The first one I create is, this cool dinosaur-y rock sort of monster, Rhydon, sweet, that's my first one, therefore that's the first Pokemon. So not in lore, just actual humans making a fucking company and a corporation and a franchise. Rhydon is the number 1. Yes, so it depends how you want to look at it. In lore, it has to be Arceus. Just generic, I'm making a franchise, it has to be Rhydon. Surely. Visuals, that's Pokemon Thursday in a very ranty, silly, stupid way because I'm just posing a question that Pokemon fans have asked for a good while and stuff like that. But please, I want to know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. I want to know who you think your first Pokemon. Do you look at it in lore? Do you look at it not in lore? How do you look at it? Because like I said, depends how you look at it. Depends how you're going to answer it. And then how you look at it, debate which is the most correct way. Do you look at it just in lore because it is already created? Or do you look at it because at the start of creation of what... I don't fucking know. It's a fun debate. It's a fun question. Let me know what you think in the comments below. There we are, the visuals. This week's edition of Pokemon Thursday. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Sorry it was very ranty and a bit more level and straight-headed and whatnot this week. It's a fun question, and I want people like James and stuff's opinions and thoughts in the comments below. I want to know what you guys think. So more importantly, visuals, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for letting me have this dumb question chucked up on the channel, and we'll always keep being you and keep on keeping on.